So the first transfer portal is closing in a few days. Are you satisfied? Or should Lincoln Riley leave the door open for more once spring camp opens? That's what we're going to talk about on this episode of Locked On USC.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Hulkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're watching on YouTube or wherever you like to download your podcast, we are free. And I want to say thank you for coming along for the ride. I hope you're enjoying the show. If you are watching me on YouTube and you haven't done it yet, please hit that red subscribe button. It would mean a whole heck of a lot. And to those of you who already have, the thousands of you, thank you so very, very much. Let's keep that number growing. All right, so the job isn't done yet. And if Lincoln Riley is going to bring more guys in through the transfer portal, that also means that more of your current guys on the roster are going to have to leave. Space is limited. So I'm not going to play, who do you want to see leave so you can bring so-and-so in. We're not going to point fingers in that direction. However, I think everybody feels the same, that USC and Lincoln Riley and his coaching staff, they're not quite done with the transfer portal yet. However, I think you should be satisfied, at least up to this point. Remember, after the season ended, and Lincoln Riley confirmed this last week when we sat down for a couple hours, the emphasis was, they were putting an emphasis on the front seven, the defensive front seven, improving the talent base and getting better players inside the door. It was essential. Like he said, you can't fake the front seven. And he was comparing where USC is today to Georgia, because that's who you're comparing yourself to. If you want to be a national champion, a two-time defending national champion, you got to set the bar with Georgia. They're the team to beat right now. USC was there before. They'll get back there, hopefully. And we know the O-line, they addressed that through the transfer portal so far, with Jarrett Kingston, the offensive lineman from Washington State, and the offensive tackle from Florida, Michael Tarquin, who, again, is going to be the son-in-law to USC great Tony Vaselli. I don't think USC and Tony Vaselli would recommend this young man if he wasn't up to the task. So again, O-line got addressed, and some other positions that they touched upon in the first transfer portal window. What's not to like at the running back spot? You already had Austin Jones and Rayleigh Brown and Darwin Barlow. Now those guys are going to get competition from Marshawn Lloyd, the running back from Little USC. Again, we're talking about transfer portal guys. We're not talking about recruiting class. Very transfer portal specific in this first segment. Today, when I'm taping the show for Tuesday's Locked On USC episode, Jordan Addison, wide receiver, he made it official. He is taking his talents to the NFL. But even with Jordan Addison moving on, as well as Gary Bryant Jr. and Kyle Ford and C.J. Williams leaving USC through the transfer portal, that was also addressed. Now, I think Lincoln Riley and the wide receiver coaches, Dennis Simmons and Luke Heward, had an idea that some guys were going to be leaving, but they addressed it. So you lose, again, you lose GB1, Kyle Ford, C.J. Williams. And let me throw this name out. Don't forget, Brew McCoy was also a part of this group who was no longer with the Trojans. He left the year before Riley got here. Things didn't work out. That's 4 receivers, big-time receivers, that USC is losing, in a very short time span, and it doesn't affect them. barely blinks. So you lose those guys, and you still bring in through the transfer portal Dorian Singer from Arizona, an all Pac-12 conference caliber player. Again, transfer portal. I can talk about the 2 freshmen coming in. We don't need to. Not for this segment. So again, remember, the transfer portal, that's going to close in a few days. And then it reopens up again in May once spring camps have finished or close to being done. You remember I mentioned it on yesterday's episode of Locked on USC. USC spring camp is starting early this season. March 22nd, I think, is the tentative date that's been scheduled, which means they should be done by the end of April. And so they're going to be able to figure out what their needs still are, see who's coming or who's staying, who's going, and then they can fill in the holes, fill in the gaps of some other needs they need through the transfer portal at that time. So where else should Lincoln Riley and his staff focus through the transfer portal? Maybe 1 or 2 offensive line guys for depth purposes. I guess depending on how things shake out at USC's spring camp, more can come or leave. It depends. We know you've got a really good core group coming back, led by Justin Dietich playing center, Cortland Ford tackle, Jonah Monheim at guard, Gino Quinones coming back as well, trying to lock down one of those interior spots. So again, you got a good group of core guys. You got some young guys behind them. You got the 2 guys I already mentioned coming through the portal. I'm thinking they're probably going to look at least 1 more offensive lineman between now and the end of the May window. I haven't mentioned the quarterback position. Probably not necessary unless Miller Moss decides it's time to, take his extreme talents elsewhere. He knows that Malachi Nelson is being tabbed as the future once Caleb leaves, where everyone anticipates he's leaving after the season. I really hope Miller sticks around. He's a personal favorite of mine. And again, USC does not need to go get a quarterback in the transfer portal unless Miller decides that he's going to take maybe the Kyle Ford route is the best way to go. He's being patient, but there's only so much patience a quarterback can have before you need to start looking elsewhere. I'm hoping it never happens. I really hope it doesn't come to that. I'd love to see Miller be able to take the baton, earn it, and then show Malachi Nelson how to be a college quarterback. I'm old school that way. Should USC try and go out and grab a big-time tight end in the transfer portal? And maybe that would help convince Deuce Robinson, who it's starting to look more and more like he's going to commit and sign with Georgia when the February signing day rolls around. If Lincoln Riley can go out and get a big-time name tight end to come to USC and then actually use that tight end, would that be enough to maybe convince Deuce that, hey, yeah, you should be a Trojan? Who knows? Let's flick back to the defensive side of the ball. So far, at least on paper, I think the upgrades, they look solid. Through the transfer portal, again, you've got Anthony Lucas. He's the big name grab defensive end that they really were going after. And I think everyone's hoping is going to be able to just step in and fill Tuiapulotu's enormous shoes. You also have Jack Sullivan, the defensive lineman from Purdue, and Jamil Muhammad, edge rusher, linebacker, and Kion Bars, the defensive tackle from University of Arizona. That's 4 guys for the defensive line if we throw Muhammad in there. And then you have the linebacker transfer, Mason Cobb. Again, is Muhammad a linebacker or is he an edge guy? We'll find out. We'll see how he's used in the spring. Maybe he's going to be used multiple ways. So this is a position that I would hope they're going to bring a couple more guys in later in the spring. And I'm going to talk more about the linebackers coming up in our next segment. But first, we're going to talk about Built Bar. Are you looking for like a really good, delicious treat, but you don't want all of that fat and calories? then you got to try Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and look, my goal, drop 1 pound. I'm going to eat a little bit healthier this year. Not a lot, just a little. So if you're like me where you want to eat healthier, but you don't want to compromise taste, then man, I've got a thing for you. You got to try Built. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious, you won't even think they're good for you. Perfect for your New Year's resolution. And what makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they're covered with real chocolate. 100% real chocolate. And they come in these unbelievably delicious flavors like churro, peanut butter, brownie, and coconut almond. Now, look, I'm not sure how they do it, but these bars, they taste like a candy bar, and they do it while maintaining their macros. And what's even better is that they are healthy for you. They're only 130 calories. They have 4 grams of sugar and a whopping 17 grams of protein. Your body needs protein. And now that you don't need to, and check this out. Now, you don't have to go online to order these things. You don't have to wait for them. You can go get them. You can head over to your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and then grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. Or if you want to head over to Sam's Club, run in, you can grab a 13-bar box, and they have their hit flavors of brownie batter and churro. You can thank me later. All right. Once again, thank you for making Locked on USC your first listen every day. I need you to go check out the new podcast called Locked On College Basketball. It's everything you need to know about college basketball in one place. Plus, you get to hear it from big name experts, insiders, coaches, and the players. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, so we know Lincoln Riley, Alex Grinch, their defense is under the microscope. And we know that they're trying to address those issues, specifically on defense. Look, it starts with the roster, the Jimmies and the Joes. Those guys, when you get really, really good, high-caliber elite players, they can mask and cover up the X's and O's. The scheme might not always look great, but great players can make poor schemes look good. We talked about the portal guys earlier. And we know at linebacker, we know that Shane Lee, Eric Gentry, and Rajon Davis are coming back. Those guys played in 2022. Excuse me, not so much Rajon Davis till the end, but we know what Shane Lee and Eric Gentry are capable of. The only high school linebacker that they're bringing in, before I get to Taka Curtis, and then you had 2 linebackers who redshirted. One was Carson Tabarachi, the transfer who came over from Utah, and then Garrison Madden from, I believe it's Alpharetta, Georgia. Excuse me. So those guys are going to be looking to get some playing time coming up this season, and it'll start in spring camp. As I mentioned, Taka Curtis, the only linebacker they're bringing in as a high school recruit. And he's the best in the country. So they're going to be looking for him to make an impact, or at least become part of the rotation quickly. Will he start right away? I don't know. Will he be playing by the time the season rolls around? Yeah, I think so. So are those guys enough, that group? If we include, obviously, the transfer portal linebacker in Mason Cobb, and Muhammad, depending, again, is he on the edge? Are they going to use him at linebacker? Eric Gentry, he was never the same once he came back from his injury that he suffered against Utah in the first game against Utah. He just never really recovered. And here's the thing. Is his future inside where they had him playing in 2022? Is this where Lincoln Riley is going to get involved and tweak things, make some adjustments? I mean, or are they going to move him to the outside? He is skinnier than the skinny jeans that everybody's wearing today. It's not a look I like, by the way. But when he's healthy, he's tall, he's fast. I'd like to see him maybe try him on the outside at the edge. I don't know. Shane Lee, we know he's coming back. He finished his first year at USC. Really good numbers, considering he played half the season with one hand. He had 79 total tackles, 52 of them were solo, 7.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, a pass deflection, and 1 defensive touchdown. Yes, there are some limitations to Shane's game. He's not the fleetest of foot. However, I think he's got the IQ to make sure he's always in the right spot. I'd love to see Shane Lee in this system for another year. He is your inside middle linebacker guy, especially in run-stopping situations. Again, maybe a little tweak to Alex Grinch's scheme is where Lincoln Riley steps in and say, all right, let's just move these pieces around. Again, let's not try and put a square peg into a round hole. And I mentioned, Shane Lee did all that playing pretty much half a season with just one arm, one hand. After the Cotton Bowl, Shane was asked, for his suggestions on how the defense can get better. He said the first thing is to watch film and correct everything that we need to correct. As far as moving forward, I guess it's just playing together, playing fast, playing free. We just got to play fast and like we're having fun out there. We're tough to compete with when we do. Obviously, like we've shown it, there's other games with different spurts and stuff, but it's just about being consistent in doing so. Okay, that sounds a lot like coach speak. We'll call that player speak. What the message in there, I think what Shane was trying to say without saying it in fewer words is, if I'll feel more comfortable in the system my second time around. Hopefully that's the case. And I'm taking that from the part where he says, playing fast, playing free. That's the euphemism for just feeling more comfortable. Not reading and reacting. It just happens. It just comes naturally. And he went on to continue that, look, I'm staying. I just like what we're building here. I'm comfortable here. I'm excited for what's to come. And I want to be a part of that. I want to help build it, and I want to be a part of it, continue what we started. We talked before I came here about building something. This is just a continuation of that. I really am excited. I'm happy to see the new pieces we're going to bring in and how we're going to keep building and how we're going to keep climbing, end quote. Long story short, he's looking for some continuity. And he needs to be a part of that to keep it going. So again, how involved should Lincoln Riley get with the defense? He said he's going to do it. Is it a matter of, again, just getting Grinch better players? Is that his involvement? I think it's going to be a little bit more than that. Or, again, I'm going to say, does Lincoln Riley need to take a page out of Pete Carroll's playbook, where he allowed Norm Chow full autonomy of his offense in that first year? But at the end of the season, when they lost in the bowl game, ironically to Utah, it was the Vegas Bowl. Pete Carroll said, we're going to get more balance on offense. And he got a little bit more involved. He wanted to see more running to go along with Norm's prolific passing attack. We saw what happened starting in 2002 going forward. USC became that unstoppable program. And I'm not saying you're going to see 2.0 of that, but Lincoln Riley knows how to attack a defense with his own offense. So I would think he would be able to maybe offer a couple suggestions on how to defend prolific offenses. Is he going to encourage, Grinch to, take more risks, maybe blitz some more, throw out some exotic looks that, just confuse the opponents? Again, second year, they're not trying to. You can only do so much in that first year, and that so much turned from 4 wins into 11 wins. Let's not Let's not let that get lost anywhere in all of our. What some of you think I'm doing is complaining and whining. No, hardly. I am 100% behind what's going on with this program, the coaching staff. With that said, it's okay to be critical. I'm going to be fair about it too. Everything isn't, rainbows and gumdrops. You can't just say, in Lincoln we trust. It doesn't work that way. Not with me. One of my favorite, in fact, not one of, it was my favorite offensive drive of the season. USC's first drive in the Cotton Bowl against Tulane. It was a 15, 16 play drive, took almost 9 minutes off the clock. That would be a great way for Lincoln Riley to help his defense. You don't need to go ball control Stanford style all for an entire game. But if you see your defense is struggling, you can dial back your offense. Just saying, there's multiple ways that Lincoln Riley is going to help USC's defense get better in 2023. We talked about bringing in better players, tweaking the scheme a little bit, making some adjustments here and there. But the offense can help as well. So, all right. I'm going to ask a King Solomon type of question. I'm not going to ask anybody to, sacrifice their baby at the altar to test this theory. However, let's just have some fun with this. And I think I know what everybody's answer is going to be. But I think it's going to be a fun question. If you had to choose one player to build a roster around, and we'll just stick on offense, who would you choose? I'm going to give you two players to choose from. They're both Heisman Trophy winners. They both played for USC. That's narrowing it down there for you. Would you choose Reggie Bush or Caleb Williams? Like I said, I think I know most of you would probably choose Caleb because of his ability to control an offense with his arm and his legs. Great answer. I'm not going to argue with you. You could probably convince me very easily. But Caleb didn't have Reggie Bush's speed. And I'll also go as far as say that Reggie was probably a better overall athlete compared to Caleb. And I know I'm splitting hairs. Nevertheless, when you think about how USC's porous defense, think about that 2005 team. How that defense just, and as the season wore on, the defense wore out. And Reggie Bush literally carried USC over the finish line, kept that undefeated streak going. We all know about 4th and 9 in South Bend with the Bush push. Remember the Fresno State game. You don't have Reggie Bush in that game, you're not playing Texas in the national championship game. Just got to point that out. So, again, I think I know where everybody's going to lean as far as, again, Caleb Williams, he's a generational player. And don't try and say, well, Reggie, when he got to the NFL, wasn't able to do. I'm talking about you got to start USC from ground zero, and you've got to start on offense. Like I said, I think Caleb Williams was probably the correct answer. But if there is a 1A or 1B, I'm thinking, man, how do you say I'm not picking Reggie Bush? Do you want to play against him? Okay, that's a great question. Who wins? All things being equal. All things being equal. USC's defense, 2005. I'm not even going to use 2022 because that was really bad. USC's defense, 2005. Who is going to have more success, Reggie Bush or Caleb Williams? I want your feedback. tell it to me. You can tweet at me at Mark Culkin, MarcKulkin. You can let me know here on Locked On USC. Let me know. I think this is a fun question. All right, before I get out of here for this episode, once again, thanks for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Don't forget to go check out Locked On College Basketball. It's that season. Before you know it, March Madness is going to be here. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. All right. That's it for this episode of Locked On USC. It's a little short this time around. However, we'll be back again with another episode. So until then, Trojan fans, everyone, you know what to do, right? Get it up there.